Hello, my name is Keith Kelly with Catholic Charities, and welcome to this Employment Services video, Working from Home, Is It For Me? Working from home has really become a lot more popular in recent years. However, it was really kick-started by the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, 6% of workers worked from home. As of May 2020, 35% of people were working home in some sort of capacity, and that has increased since then. Work from home can really be a job where you do that just to work from home, or it can be a hybrid of working from home and periodically either going into the office or keeping some office hours. However, one thing is for sure, what we have in the current environment with the pandemic has set off a lot of conversations about where people work, how people work, and a number of these changes will certainly continue after the pandemic is over. There are a number of types of jobs that can easily be worked from home. A lot of these jobs are jobs that previously might have been worked at a designated location or in an office. However, they did not require a lot of interaction between staff members, and they were jobs that one could do independently, such as computer jobs, such as website development, graphics, medical coding, accounting, sales types of jobs in many cases, and in some cases customer service. However, what we see now is that there's also a trend toward jobs that previously were delivered person to person that are now being delivered remotely, such as teaching, consulting, counseling, education, and other types of customer service. So what are the advantages of working from home? Obviously, there are a number of advantages. You're going to be saving money on fuel and wear and tear on a vehicle, or time that you would need to utilize a bus. There's no commute time, so you're going to have more time during that portion of the day you'd spend commuting that could be spent on off-work activities. There's safety in not traveling. There's not going to be traffic jams. There's also less exposure to infections, and there's really more options for where you want to live. If your job only requires periodic trips into an office or no trips into an office, that greatly enhances the choices you have in terms of where you might want to reside. What are the advantages for businesses? Businesses certainly will have lower occupancy costs if a number of people are regularly working from home. They will not have as high of cost in rent and utilities and other types of expenses. Studies have shown that for work-at-home workers, there's a greater level of productivity, and also businesses have a much greater access to a talent pool. It has been shown that 300% more applicants apply for remote work positions than those that are not remote work positions. What are the disadvantages? It's also been shown that because people are working in a situation where they're not working around others, that it seems like that there's a lower rate of promotion for workers. Some workers may feel more isolated in that they're not working with coworkers. And also there are more challenges in communication and creativity. So this, in some respects, is a situation where businesses and workers have challenges in terms of their work and work productivity in the long run. There's less of a standard workspace, so you're not going to have access to space and all the accessories and all the equipment that you normally would have unless you make provisions for that in your own work setting. And there are also distractions that could be happening from children or pets or family members that may be at home. There are also a number of things to consider when you're thinking about working from home. What is your work style? What do you think about work? How flexible are you in re-envisioning ways of working? Also, what sort of knowledge is required to more independently think and communicate and work at home? As referenced before, there are certain equipment needs. There's computer, possibly internet, scanner, supplies that you may need, certain furnishings that you may need. For example, if you're working from home, a kitchen table chair may not be nearly as comfortable as a desk chair. Likewise, you have to have adequate workspace. And one of the misconceptions frequently when thinking about working from home for people with children is that because the worker is at home, they can also save on childcare. Over and over again in the literature and on websites, it is cautioned against thinking that childcare is no longer a need for working at home. Also, there's the potential of distractions from children if they don't require childcare, from pets, family members that may be at home. There are increased opportunities, but also perhaps some challenges with remote learning and remote training that one might need to consider. And also, because as referenced before, you can be relatively more isolated, there's the challenge of increasingly working toward maintaining communications with supervisors and the team. Also, another thing to think about working from home jobs is that because the nature of the job may be a little different because it's not office-based, there may be more flexibility in the way jobs are structured and presented to people. You might want to consider, is the job temporary or permanent? Is the job seasonal? What are the best work hours for working from home at this job? Not too dissimilar perhaps from a call center where you go in and make calls. There are evening hours required, but also this may be the case with work at home jobs. So it is important to consider the nature of the work at home job in this respect with other family responsibilities one may have. And also, how can you grow in a work at home position? What learning and certification opportunities are available to you? These are important to consider for career advancement. Another thing that's important to realize is that with the predominance of more work at home positions, there's also less structure that's provided for some jobs. It's important to realize whether you are an employee or an independent contractor. According to the Internal Revenue Service, the general rule is that an individual is an independent contractor if the payer has the right to control or direct only the result of the work and not what will be done and how it will be done. There's a lot of variations for interpretation for this. Basically, the Department of Labor has a list, and it indicates what is an independent contractor versus what is an employee. And based on the predominance of those work characteristics, that depends on whether a person is considered an employee or an independent contractor. It is very important to realize that if you are an independent contractor, the company that you're working for does not deduct taxes from your paycheck. Nonetheless, you will be responsible for paying income tax, and not only that, there is a self-employment tax of 15.3%. That consists of 12.4% Social Security tax and 2.9% Medicare tax. It's important, therefore, that if you're an independent contractor, that you consider these factors when you're doing your budgeting. It is not the same as getting a paycheck that already has the deductions out of it, and you do not need to further budget that paycheck for other expenses that normally a company would take from that paycheck. I worked with one person, for example, on a work-at-home position. She started successfully working at that work-at-home position. However, she just was not able to navigate or really felt like she could control the processes of budgeting to account for the extra expenses involved. that normally would be taken out by a company. Therefore, the position she decided did not work for her. Another thing, however, to consider if you are an independent contractor is there are many expenses that you may deduct. You may deduct, for example, part of your workspace at home. You may deduct, if you happen to do some driving expenses, meals, equipment expenses, any expenses that you may have for licensing or professional development. So it is important to realize that you enter into just a little bit different tax type of world if you're used to working as an employee. And that is not to say that work-at-home positions are always independent contractor positions, but very frequently many of them are. So that is something certainly to consider. One of the things to be aware of with respect to work from home is the increased prevalence of work from home scams. As opportunities increase for work from home positions, also the opportunities increase for work from home scams. Please do see our presentation on the work from home scams. Here are some resources here for further looking into the opportunity of working from home. Namely, if it is something that you would be interested in, there's one site here listed that the person that was working from home, it did not work out for them. And it explains a little bit about why that's the situation. So this may give you a little bit better feel of what it's like in working for a work-at-home position. So this presentation then is what one might want to consider when one thinks about working from home. There are more opportunities to work from home now than ever before. A lot of people really like working from home. It has given them a lot more opportunity in terms of where they live. It's given them a lot more opportunity in terms of professional development and more opportunity to find ways that they can make a living and do so very successfully. There are also things to consider, and we've highlighted those things in this presentation. And also, we have also talked about some of the things that relate to scams when one first starts out the prospect of looking at working from home, and simply what to be aware of. So working from home can be a positive thing. It's a very growing trend, and it's a trend that's going to continue. If you want to learn more about working from home or discuss this with someone, feel free to talk to an employment specialist at Catholic Charities. We would be delighted to talk with you about this. Thank you.